Okay, people, I'm gonna tackle an issue that's today's type of issue, and the issue is stores hoarding and holding supplies back. The other day, I talked about how society in its whole is about to just totally collapse. This is just another stage and sign in it. You think that the stores are hoarding things, but in truth, it's not that they're doing it because they want to. They have no other choice. Let's talk about logistics in the supply chain. Logistic is basically not just about the supply and demand, but it is the movement of goods between store and warehouses. It's about getting the goods to the stores to put out. Now, the main warehouses, the distribution centers, they're getting it in, but they have so many that they have to spread it out to, because they have to portion it out to other people. Some places like Walmart really don't have any storage because all their distribution houses are set up to receive it and to push it on out to the stores. Stores don't really have storage. They're meant to bring it in and put it out on the shelf and you take and buy it right then and there. Well, you say, well, you're seeing shortages of this and that. Well, the shortages are coming in several folds. Let's start with the manufacturer. The manufacturer produces these products and then they have to ship them out. That's the logistics of it. And when they ship them out, they ship out as much as they possibly can. But the problem comes, and I can say again, in logistics, because getting it from the manufacturer to the distribution center is a totally different thing because there is a lack of truck drivers, lack of way of getting it from one place to the other. That's part of the logistics. Many wars were fought and lost because of logistics, getting things from one place to the other. Attila the Hun and Genghis Khan winded up losing their last few battles because the supply and demand getting to the front armies was not there because everything started so far back till it could not catch up to them there. Thus, they winded up losing the battles and having to retreat. And that's part of the supply and demand, the logistics. And you're seeing it today. There's certain products I like to get, and I don't always get the name brand. Sometimes I get the store brand, but even the store brand from the manufacturers that manufacture two or three or four different products. It may be the same product, but they put different labels on it. And then they change the product a little bit here and there to get it to where it meets the store branding. But they have a problem in the manufacturing. Why? Because of the labor laws. You can only work a person for so long before they have to take time off. Well, even with the manufacturers working full capacity, they still don't have enough people, enough time in the day to fill these orders. Thus comes the logistics again. This is supply and demand. So what is happening? The manufacturers are selectively making what they want. Why? Because they have to use their resources to the best of their ability based upon not what the distribution centers want, but what they're capable of doing. And what they're capable of doing is set aside By who? Laws and regulations of the government. Now, the government has been cracking down on labor laws, and this is a result of it. So, when you go to the store to buy something, you don't see the product, don't blame the your grocery store or your super centers and things like that. Think about the logistics of what it would take to get that product there and the labor laws that it takes to get it there. Now, the labor laws is just part of the problem. Some of it comes through environmental regulations and things. Truckers going from one place to another, from one state to another. Each state has their own traffic and road laws and rules, and each trucker passing through those states have to meet that state standard. There is no federal standard. There is a federal standard for getting the license and what's there, but then the state starts putting on their own little things. I mean, and this slows down what the truckers can do. In some states, a trucker can only drive for 8 hours straight. Other states, they can drive for 12 hours. Another one we says that they have to have a logbook that regulates and shows every hour of their trip of what they're doing. So when they stop, and by some states they have to stop every 6 hours, other states every 2 hours. And some of them is even regulated somewhere in between. And when they stop, they have to fill out that logbook. Sometimes when the truckers get pulled over, they hadn't had a time to finish or fill up the logbook the way they want to, and so the truckers get a ticket for not having the logbook not up to date. Thus, that slows down part of the logistics and supply and demand. Each state has their own regulation, and it's all about environmental control. Because, like in California, theirs is so strict. A trucker there, they're afraid to go into the state because if their truck or something's going on, if their emissions isn't just right, they can get pulled over, stopped for just about anything, and that's a fine. Now, some companies will pay the fine for the trucker, but some companies say no, the trucker has to pay the fine. And when this gets to be too heavily, the trucker has only one or two choices: either quit running and pay the fines, or go without paying the fines and get a chance to get locked up, or vacate the state itself. And when they do that, that means less truckers for that state. Less truckers for that means the manufacturers in that state has limited amount of ways to ship their products to the distribution center. Do you see the logistics of what's happening? Now we blame it on the retailers, but most retailers are set up with an automatic reordering system. When you go to the register and you buy an item, it's registered in several ways. One way is registering how much product is in the store and how fast that product is moving. Another way is sending signals to the distribution center or the main corporation about what that product is selling, how fast it's selling, and how quick you need to reorder it. Well, when it gets down to the supply and demand and the logistics of it, sometimes what the corporate headquarters and these distribution centers are getting automatically from the stores exceed what they possibly can put out. Why? Again, let's go to labor laws. In a distribution center, those workers can only work so many hours per day before they have to have time off. That means they can only load a maximum so many trucks per day. Then after that, somebody else has to come in. But even at a max capacity, that they can't meet the demand of the retailers, then it's going to be a lag in the logistics and lag in getting the products to the stores to be put on the shelf. Thus, the consumer's going to look at it and think, well, this is a shortage. When in actuality, it's not a shortage. It is a logistical nightmare that's going on. And how do the manufacturers, the corporate headquarters, the distribution centers, and all this and stores up for this, they escalate the price of each item. They do it for two reasons only. One is they're trying to recoup the cost of not having what they really need and to pay for the store operations. And two is because they're expecting to slow down the sale of that item so that it stays on the shelf for longer. That's the only reason why they do that. That in a marketing scheme, this is what you do. If you don't want to jack up a price, you're going to run the risk of it flying off the shelf real fast. And when it does, that means that product got to be restocked. It goes to the distribution center, to the corporate, to the manufacturer, and they're all hand tied, hog tied, due to federal regulations and government oversight. Do you see the logistics? All these little things that's going on, that's happening to your supply and demand, are happening because of your government regulations. Regardless if it's Democrats or Republicans or the independents, liberals or conservatives or whatever, this has all started to happen because of the pandemic that we had. There was over a year there where everything, all the logistics, all slowed down. And now that it's back up to speed, guess what's happening? The logistics of it all cannot keep up with the supply and demand because of government regulations, the manufacturers, the farmers, all these other places cannot keep up with it. The countries that we do accept goods and products from, even though they're coming in because of the pandemic and the things that these products have to go through coming into port and customs, makes it a logistical nightmare because what normally would take place within a 24-hour period now takes up to 3 to 6 months to pass through. The means of supply and demand is going to be increasing. The demand for it, the supply is going to go down. Thus, you're going to get inflation. And not just any type of inflation, you will get hyperinflation. Look at it, people. Our supply and demand is controlled by the logistical nightmare that has been set up by our government. No matter which one it is, Democrats, Republicans, or independents, conservatives, liberals, they all have contributed to what is happening right now. And then you add a pandemic that was in here, regardless if it's real or not, regardless of what's happening here and now and what. The logistics of it is we're at a point to where there is no return. You can't go back. It's like putting blood in a centrifuge. You take and you spin around and you separate the white blood cells from the red blood cells. Once you separate them, you take a long time to put them back, and you say, well, you just mix them up. No, it's not the same, and every doctor will tell you you cannot mix it back together. There is a process to bring it back, which is longer than it took for the centrifuge to separate them. Thus, same thing's going to happen in our supply and demand. It is going to take longer to fix this than it did to stop it. And how long? It may take 5 to 10 years for everything to go back the way it is. In that 5 or 10 years, there may be other governmental programs and regulations come in to even hinder that even more. There may be even more things going on, like Democrats walking out because they're not getting their way, Republicans uh, bullying, trying to fight the Democrats on this. The independents are trying to shake their heads and say this ain't gonna work. Liberals and conservatives at each other's throat. That's the reason why I say we're on a cusp of a complete societal collapse. And it all has to do with logistics. You think that these things are not getting in the store, that the stores are hoarding stuff back and holding it back? We only get that because of the news and the media. They're not telling the full story. Like with the pandemic and COVID-19, they don't tell the full story. They tell enough so they can sell commercial slots to keep their television station functioning so they can pay their employees. That's all that is. You got to remember, sometimes you got to dig and find the answers yourself. Logistically, we are in a no return point. Logistically, there is no real recovery. Not unless you want to take and just deregulate everything, just let a free manufacturer product and uh, unregulated employment and employees and workers and all like that go on. Sure, that can catch us all back up, but it's still going to take about 5 years for it to catch up. And in the meantime, the cost of living is going to go so much higher than what a poor man can afford to buy and pay to get things till it's going to be best if they just stop going to work, period. There goes the escalating, the separation in the centrifuge. There is no real stop to it, people. Now, I make these posts and nobody really pays attention to, but when push comes to shove, don't say that you did not have a chance to be warned about it. This is going to happen. I'm not trying to pull a wool over somebody's eyes and running, screaming, the sky is falling like Chicken Little. What I'm telling you is a factual thing. You can see it slowly happen, like the frog in the frying pan. The heat is slowly being turned up, and by the time it's too late, we can't leave the frying pan because we'll jump from the frying pan into the fire. There is no going back, people. It's already started. It's already happening. And if you're not prepared for it, and if you're not ready for it, you're going to pay the price. The consumer, the poor man, rich man's going to pay the biggest price. That's the funny part of this, because he needs all these people to do these things for him, and they're not going to be there to do it for him. You're going to see lots more mansions and stuff like that all by the wayside because they going to be nobody there willing to do the work for the little pay that he's willing to give. And he can't afford to give the big pay, because if he did, he'll go broke. They got the worst part. Poor man can learn to live without nothing. Rich man got to have everything to keep going. They are the ones going to be paying the price. Anyway, I'm gonna post it here on YouTube and on Twitter, and y'all have a good day. And hope that you're getting yourself ready, because it's going to happen. Like a snowball rolling downhill, you're not going to stop it. Bye bye.